Primo with TRT as an add-on. Super anabolism and libido and erection upgrade, or causer of sexual dysfunction. Well, what I want to do in this video is analyze other people's experiences with Primo Ball, and then I'm going to kind of weigh in on my personal experience as well as my experience with coaching clients, bringing Primo into the protocol and what it does to sexual function. Because the truth of the matter is, it could go both ways. It could totally and dramatically enhance erectile quality and libido to the point where you're like on fire like you were when you were younger, or like an AI could, it can crush your sexual function completely and make you not interested in anything, walking around with a limp noodle. And it really does come down to the protocol. While Primo's super attractive, it really does sculpt your physique. It makes you instantly stronger, and it usually comes with no otherwise physical side effects. So it's like an attractive option, and it's built-in estrogen control. So let's do an analysis here. If you're on TRT, you're having libido and erection issues, you're trying to control estrogen in a way which also gives you significant anabolism, should you dose Primo or not? All right, before we start the video, look, Cortex Labs, which is my company, is a TRT guided sexual dysfunction resolution and performance optimization company. Right now, we've got the biggest specials and discounts we've ever run on anything, period. Coaching on HRT. This is TRT coaching specifically designed to enhance and resolve libido and erection problems, as well as well-being issues, are all 50% off. Every single one of the packages is 50% off right now. If you want to lock in a slot with me because they're filling up quick, because I've been sending this out via email, you've got to book now. The code is Coach Discount. It saves you 50%, which is thousands of dollars on every one of the coaching packages. Source list, 30% off right now. Code's on the screen. Code's on the screen. Link is down in the description of this video. Mastering Testosterone Cypionate is a video course I created teaching you how to achieve libido and erections on Cypionate, which is hard, but I've broken it down in this video course. Get it down below. Importantly, though, those of you looking to do coaching, now's the time. 50% off. Go book. Let's get on the fact-finding call as soon as tomorrow. So you're going to see a mixed bag of results here when it comes to Primo. So let's look at this thread as an example. Lowered sex drive or libido on Primo Ball. Looks like this is a guy just saying anyone get low libido on Primo. We don't actually know if this dude had a libido drop when he was taking Primo Ball or not. Maybe he's just asking. Who knows? And look, there are a lot of different responses to this. Here's one. I'm running 750 milligrams a week of Sustanon. It's a lot of tests, so estrogen is probably pretty high, but 700 a week of Primo, okay, and 50 milligrams Anavar daily. This guy's probably fucking huge. I don't use an AI, and my estradiol is low. My orgasms are dull and take forever to achieve. I'm thinking about cutting the Primo back and switching to Test P or E or both. Yeah, so here's an example where he's crushing estrogen with Primo. Remember, primobolan metabolizes into this intermediary chemical, which acts as an aromatase inhibitor. You're going to see on people's bloods, including Vigorous Steve, who showed us his bloods before, that when you're on primobolan with testosterone, it's going to lower your estrogen. Here's another one. Me too, man. Dull orgasm. I'm only taking 400 of Test E and 400 of Primo. I don't really like this compound. I'm simply using it incorrectly or need to up the test. Yeah, it's a shitty ratio. What you're going to find is the suggested ratios on primobolan are usually just not right. Basically, people are telling you to dose too much Primo. That shit is really powerful at acting as an aromatase blocker that it could act as an AI does in some cases and crush your libido. Now, let's look at the other side of things, because again, it's all about the person and how much estrogen reduction they might need. Some people take AIs and they're totally fine and they wake up with erections and everything works. So here's the other side. Nope. Meaning no, it doesn't mess with my libido. Wake up with a boner every day on Primo. Here's a guy, 400 milligrams Test, 300 of Primo, so that's a better ratio. And it makes me feel like a fucking porn star. Wife taps out before I usually finish. In order to understand what's happening here, let's look at this thread. Primo for estrogen control. Guy goes, question for those of you who have used Primo to lower estrogen, or maybe it wasn't your initial purpose, but that's what ended up happening. What was your dose and how much did it lower estrogen? Do you have blood work to prove that? First guy started with 300 milligrams testosterone at a higher body fat percentage. First blood's estradiol was 65. Okay, so at 300 milligrams testosterone a week, yeah, estradiol being at 65 makes sense. I then decided to add 200 milligrams of Primo. So, again, a pretty good ratio, but for some people, the Primo Primobolan is just going to crush the estrogen too much, even at reasonable ratios. So you got to dose a lot lower Primo. After 2 months, I was 11% body fat and started feeling very awkward. Fast heart rate, prime indication that estrogen's too fucking low, by the way. Insomnia, low energy, fatigue, all prime indications that you're crushing estradiol. Pulled my bloods and estrogen was 9 picograms per milliliter. So it went from 65 to 9 on 200 of Primo. Okay, that's the answer to what, why Primo increases libido and can improve erectile quality and fix sexual dysfunction on TRT, because it manages estrogen. And that's also the answer to why it can nuke your libido and make you feel asexual, because it manages estrogen. Let's run through some experiences, shall we? When I was on cycle of 560 milligrams of tesenethate per week, I was running like 150, 160 every other day, whatever that is, just every other day, intramuscular pins in the upper glute. And with that 560, I tried pinning 100 milligrams of Primo, split up into 2 injections, 50 milligrams every 3.5 days, and that crushed my libido. I think day 1 after the pin, I was on fire. Erections were crazy. My libido was like, I really started getting super horny, and I was like, well, good. This is good estrogen control. Let's continue. By day 2, everything had hit rock bottom. So, like, what happened there in my case? Well, I am particularly sensitive to the use of estrogen-lowering stuff, even on a half a fucking gram of testosterone per week. Again, I have this theory, and I think it's true, regarding the inhibition of aromatase, and somehow the body doesn't deal with it well. And at the tissue level, penile tissue, brain tissue, where this really does matter, you get like a complete blockade, or a mostly complete blockade of estradiol conversion, from aromatase, from testosterone. If the tissues are starved of estrogen, you're going to have a lack of sexual function. And for me and a lot of other people that I've dealt with over the years, they just can't really deal with compounds that lower estrogen because their body doesn't respond appropriately to that. I've had clients over the years on regular TRT doses, call it 150 milligrams of testosterone per week, that try pinning like 20 milligrams of Primobolan. This is a very low dose of Primobolan. They get a little bit of anabolism. They feel good from it. There's no otherwise physical side effects, but it nukes their libido. I mean, if you can't take 20 of Primo, which is a microdose, all things considered, and it's nuking your libido, you're probably one of those people that just can't do well with estrogen-lowering compounds. It doesn't need to be lowered all that much or at all. At the same time, I've had clients on 200 milligrams, just a regular, run-of-the-mill kind of clinic prescribed TRT dose, once or twice a week injection frequency, and they're dosing 100 to 150 milligrams of Primobolan, and they got porn star erections, and their libido is crazy. This highlights the variability between people in how they deal with aromatase blocking. All right, let's go to ChatGPT for a little more clarity, right? Because sometimes chat has some pretty good fucking answers. I asked it, why does one person who's on 200 milligrams of test per week take 100 milligrams of Primobolan and have great sexual function, while the other does the same protocol and their libido and EQ get nuked? Explain scientifically regarding aromatase and other. So here's the scenario: 200 milligrams a week of testosterone, 100 milligrams a week of methanolone enanthate or Primobolan. Person A, great libido and EQ. Person B, libido crashes, EQ gets nuked. Why? Chat's explanation is number 1, aromatase activity differences, which is exactly what I'm implying here and what I've seen in coaching practice over the years. It goes, adding Primo reduces the net estrogenic activity of the protocol. Testosterone does convert to estradiol, but Primobolan, no estrogen conversion. Now, in person A, which is the person who had great libido, aromatase expression might be normal or slightly high, allowing sufficient estradiol production from 200 milligrams of testosterone. Primobolan then balances the estrogen to androgen ratio without crashing it. So this is absolutely what's happening in these people that have great libido and EQ from Primo. It manages the estrogen, doesn't kill the estrogen. And the result there for the person that gets good sexual function is enhanced DHT action. Primobolan, after all, is a derivative of dihydrotestosterone. Lowered estrogen just enough, and that equals excellent sexual function. That is, by the way, the recipe. Now, in person B, where their libido gets nuked from Primo, aromatase expression may be genetically low or overly suppressed due to high androgens and DHT competing for aromatase binding. Therefore, estradiol drops too low, impairing nitric oxide signaling, penile endothelial function, and libido. And the result is an erection quality collapse, low libido, and anhedonia. The key point, chat says, is some men need a certain level of estradiol for optimal sexual function, and Primobolan suppresses it by reducing available substrate and competing for androgen receptors. Also, though, it's not stating that one of Primo's metabolites is an aromatase inhibitor. Now, let's talk about the ratio, because this is where I think people get confused. First of all, people want to look at Primobolan and think, oh, it's great and anabolic, so I want to take a lot of it. How much can I get away with taking? And then so on 200 milligrams of test, people run 100 or 150 milligrams of Primo thinking they're safe because it's lower than the test amount. And again, they're taking this advice from the web and they see this shiny object, Primobolan, lots of anabolism. I can look like a Greek god and feel fucking awesome at the gym, and they go for too high fucking doses and they crush their libido and it crushes their dick. Meanwhile, I've been dealing with people on cycles, on TRT, with Primo as an add-on for years. So I have seen that the suggested ratios of having Primobolan kind of high, but your test like a little bit higher, usually don't pan out well. Usually what happens when someone's on too high of a dose of Primobolan with either a TRT dose or a sports TRT dose, like 300 milligrams or so a week, it basically just nukes their libido. Yeah, and gives them ED. So Primobolan can absolutely, when it's dosed too high for your test, just like an AI could, destroy your sexual function for 3 to 7 days. So my recommendation, after seeing all this data for years and years, and like it's not an opinion at this point, it's just truth from what I can see with client work, is that like if you're running 200 milligrams a test and you want to bring some Primo in there for estrogen control because estrogen's too high, you're probably going to want to start at like microdosing, like 10 milligrams every other day, monitor estradiol on the bloods, and pay attention to when particularly the mental side of libido falls off a cliff. The moment the mental side of libido falls off a cliff, you've inhibited aromatase too much. Microdoses, boys. Microdoses, okay? If you want to go on a cycle and your end goal is strictly to put on 10 pounds of mass, then forget about sexual function, okay? Like you can trade, like with Primo, you're gonna have to dose a lot of it. With test, you're gonna have to dose a lot of it. And it's gonna be a lot harder to dial in sexual function. You can hire a coach for that. That's what I do. Guys come to me on cycle all the time and we fix their libidos, we fix their erection issues. It's not that difficult for me, but for the average user who hasn't done this thousands of times with various people, it's not that easy. So if you want to dose a lot of Primo, just be okay with the fact that your dick might break and libido might break. It's going to recover once you're off of the cycle. Otherwise, it's going to be a pain in the butt for you to dial everything in. And you probably should just hire a coach for that. Otherwise, though, if you want a little bit of anabolism and a little bit of estrogen control, just be really, really modest on the Primo doses, guys. I've seen time and time again these ratios of 2 to 1, like 200 of Primo, 200 of test, 100 milligrams of Primo. They just are crushing people's libido. A lot of people, more people than not, are actually more sensitive to the reduction of estrogen via aromatase inhibition than you'd think. Even 100 milligrams of Primobolan on 500 milligrams a week of test was too much for me. So my ratio is totally different. So don't take the ratio advice as truth. It's just not. And recognize that at the very least, to be super safe, just start off at lower doses of Primobolan for whatever test dose you're using. Final point I want to make is like in line with this idea that you got to be really careful with Primobolan if you want to keep the sexual function intact. You got to approach this like a surgeon. Is this notion here? Well, how long does it take for Primo to kick in as an AI? This is a guy that's been dealing with high E2 for a while, 400 milligrams a week. Testosterone. Had all the symptoms of high estrogen. Then he goes, the day after injecting 150 milligrams of Primo, I noticed I felt much better. But shouldn't it take a few weeks to kick in due to the ester? The answer is no. You are getting a blood peak in Primobolan hours after you inject it. It starts to rise significantly. And right away, you're competing with the androgen receptors. You have less substrate for aromatase. Your estrogen is going to drop just as a result of that. But Primo's converting to this intermediary, which blocks aromatase. And right away, this is going to happen. So the next day, this dude had the effects from Primo, felt much better from the high E2 sides. Now, if he had continued this, probably he'd crush his estradiol into fucking oblivion, because that's what happens. So boys, it can happen right away, and that's another reason why you ought to just dose low and be careful with Primobolan. In the end, it can do both things. It can be fantastic. It can improve erection quality, improve libido, give you that sexual drive, that animal like desire for women or whatever. And it can substantially increase erectile quality to the point where it's fucking crazy. Like some of these guys are operating like porn stars. But if you take the estrogen too low and you're sensitive to the inhibition of aromatase and your body isn't regulating the enzyme activity, the estradiol activity at the tissues normally, then you're going to crash everything and your life is going to suck until you get it back. So approach wisely, tread lightly, and be careful. Recognize the ratios that are typically suggested are usually not good for people. Start low, start modest, and act like a surgeon. All right, boys, look, as I said in the beginning, I've never done a 50% discount on coaching. You know, summer months for us, people are on vacation, et cetera, so it's a little slow. So I guess my loss is your gain literally right now. The code for this is Coach Discount. It saves 50% on any coaching program. Listen, if you're having libido issues, erection issues, both usually because they both go hand in hand on TRT, I'm very surgical with fixing that, and your sexual function matters a lot to me. I thrive on a good record, and I have a goddamn good record at resolving these problems in people. So if you need to hire me, use the code Coach Discount. It saves you 50%. This is thousands of dollars on all coaching programs. Limited slots. All right, I've already had 6 book yesterday. I can only take a total of 30, and right now I'm at 21 clients. So if you're thinking of booking, you've got to book now. Pull the trigger and let's get on that fact-finding call. Source list, if you want to go at this alone, which totally is a reasonable option, you can get access to everything you need here. It's 30% off right now. It's down in the description of this video. So is the code. The code is also on the screen. Go grab it. If you're trying to dial in on Cypionate, specifically regarding libido and erections, just get Mastering Testosterone Cypionate. It's an hour and 5-minute video course that breaks down every imaginable protocol with a format on how to dial in libido and erections on the most popular ester, testosterone cypionate. Get it down in the description of this video at livecortex.com. All right, the video is now complete. I appreciate the fact, the sub to the channel if you guys would, and this, fuck, hold on. What is wrong with this chair? God. Sorry, guys. Thanks so much for watching the video. If you would just do me one... The mic. I keep forgetting about the mic. Just grab it. Give me this! All right. We're done here. It's been a pleasure hanging out with you, boys. Do me 2 favors. Like the video. It really does make a difference on YouTube for YouTube showing our channel out to other people, and it would mean the fucking world to me if you would just hit the like button. Secondarily, if you're new to this channel or coming aboard and seeing what we're doing over here, I'd love to have you as a subscriber. Lots of people are jumping on board and subbing because this channel's growing, and we're talking about the stuff that no one else talks about. Otherwise, kick ass, rock on. I hope you have a great day. Much more content coming soon tomorrow. Again, remember, coaching, 50% off. Let's book, let's get you started, and let's get your deepest problems with TRT resolved. And boys, I'll talk to you in the next one.